Hey, 3D Basics class. This is a bonus optional lecture for week 6. You don't have to follow this one if you don't want to, but I thought it was kind of a cool thing that might work well with your assignment 3 if you want. We're talking about particles, what they are, how they work. So this will be a little shorter, hopefully 20 or 30 minutes. Obviously, you'll know how long it is if you look at the length of it. Over to Blender. Obviously, I'm in a little bit of a different setting here. I've got a blue wall that I can key out behind me, which is cool. But there's also white noise being pumped into this room, so you might hear a little. Hopefully, it doesn't put you to sleep. Okay, particles. We're looking at a new tab here on the bottom right side in your properties window. It's this one here. It's underneath the modifiers wrench. It's particle properties, this one right here. And let's hit the plus button and we'll add a new particle system onto our cube. So I have the cube selected. There's 2 different types of particles. Emitter is one here that's selected. We're not doing this one today, but just so you can see, if I drag this along the timeline, particles are emitting from it. So this is something cool you can do with animation. But today we're looking at hair. Whoops, didn't mean to right click. Hair. So if I toggle this over to hair, you can see now there's a bunch of hair growing out of this cube and straight out of each of the faces. So let's look at some of the settings here under emission. So the number, this is just like the number of particles coming out of it. So you can change this, go up and down. Seed, this is just a random value, so kind of to change the randomness of it. Hair length, is changing the size of it. Segments, this doesn't really matter for what we're doing today, but this is like if you want hair to bend, it's like how many bends are in the hair. Like if you want the hair to actually like lay down. So just leave that at whatever. Okay, so right now the hair is just like paths like this. So they're all just straight lines. But what if we wanted to use a different object as our hair that's going to be growing out of this cube? So just I'm going to G move this off to the side just a little bit. Let's add a new object into the scene that we want to be our hair particle. That'll be multiplied around the cube. So I'm going to Shift A and I'm going to add a new mesh and a cone into the scene here. And I'm going to actually open my Add Cone menu here, and I'm going to turn down the vertices. I'll change this to like 12 maybe. One important consideration when you're using particles is you shouldn't have too many particles shouldn't have too many polygons on your particle, because if something is being multiplied hundreds, maybe thousands of times in your scene, a few polygons makes a big difference in your total polygon count. So again, like we're trying to be efficient, and so like something that's going to be small and conic like this, you probably don't need a lot of vertices on it, because you can always just shade smooth or whatever. I won't do that for now, shade flat. Okay, so now we want to change. I'm back on our cube. I'm in object mode. I'm on the particle properties tab here. We've got our particle system. I want to change this from like path hair to cone hair. So it's down here under render. Right now it's rendered as path. Sorry, I keep accidentally right clicking. Rendered as path. Click this drop down and we want to render as object. And so we've got a couple different settings here now. And this is, so now we have this little object drop down, and we can select cone out of here, or again, you can use the eyedropper and say, yep, I want cone to be my particle. And now you can see that there's a bunch of cones all over the sides of our cube here. So again, like just looking at the numbers, you can turn down the number of cones that is on there, or turn it up. Hair length is going to change the size of it. You can also do change the scale of it on here as well. Scale randomness, so you can have a little bit of kind of randomness here. Let's see. Extra. So there's I think advanced. You should, oh yeah. I don't know why these are advanced settings, but you should check this advanced here, and it gives you a couple more options here. Rotation. So you'll notice that they're all facing the exact same way, and that's kind of based on the object itself. So, and how it works is you can see they're all kind of exactly halfway on and turned to one side. So if I were to rotate the object like this, it's not going to do anything because, you know, the object is, the local axes of it will remain the same unless you go into edit mode. So if I go tab into edit mode like this, now I can change, you know, edit this one object, and it's going to edit all of them. So in fact, I can A for all and rotate it this way, and I can have them all sticking out like this if I wanted to. Because now the actual geometry of this is changed, and now they can all be pointing outwards. But anyway, there's other ways to change the, actually if I shade smooth this, does it shade smooth all of them? Oh, it does. Okay, that's good too. Where am I? Particle properties. So let's look at rotation. So I turned on the advanced things here, and so it adds velocity, rotation, physics. Control open rotation, and open this up, or open it up and check the box. So now we can change the randomness of it here. So you can randomize the rotation. Oh, can you? Phase, random phase. Is this actually doing anything? Oh yeah, here we go. Phase. So that's going to just random it that way. Velocity here. We'll play with some of these. Object Z. Oh yeah, object Y. Okay, so here, yes, you can add some randomness to it. You might need to kind of play with it a little bit. Global X, global Y, global Z. Object X, Y, Z. Randomize. Yeah. So you can have some fun here. Okay. Now, more practical examples. Delete this, delete this. I'm going to just do a super quick tree live on tape here, because actually on this computer I don't have the ability to pause. So I'm just gonna like make a super basic tree, you know, like this, and E extrude, 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 E extrude. Cool, okay. And then tab, control 3, right click, shade smooth. Okay. Let's say this is my tree and I want to have, make a leaf on the branches. So what I'll probably do is I'm going to use a plane, a flat plane, to act as my leaf. And you'll see this a lot of times in video games, especially with leaves on trees, that they're truly just flat. They don't have any dimensionality to it because it's just easier and simpler and faster to render flat leaves. That, you know, you get it. And what I'll do is maybe I'll take the knife tool and I'll go tab for edit mode, and I'll take the knife tool and I'll just like make a, you know, do my best to outline the like shape of a leaf like this. I don't know, and like you can spend more time on it. And make it a little bit more lifelike. Maybe even use some curves later on the line. And I'll go W for my selection tool, and I'll select this one, and I'm going to delete faces like this. Okay, so I'm left with just like a super basic leaf. Spend more time on it if you want. But this is, I'm going to rename this to be leaf. Leaf. And this is my tree. Okay. So now let's just do the same thing. So I've got my tree selected. I'm going to add a new particle system here. So I'm on the particles tab, particle properties tab. I'm adding a particle system here like this. Changing it to hair. Oh, and I had the wrong thing selected. Sorry, I need to be in object mode. I didn't have my tree selected. Sorry, I had the wrong thing selected. I got to remove the particle system from the leaf. Tree is selected. Now we are adding a particle system on the tree, adding hair. Okay, great. Changing the render from path to object, and I'm changing the object, or I'm selecting the leaf as my object. Great. Turn on my advanced properties, open up the rotation. Rotation, randomize a little bit. Normal, here we go. Use randomness a little bit, and the scale, maybe I should scale up my my leaf a little bit, and then scale randomness a little bit. Okay, so again, this is like super duper crude. I know. Okay, so the leaves are all over it, including like on the trunk here. How do I only put particles in certain places? And this is done with something called weight paint. And so just follow along with me real quick. So right now we're in object mode here. I have the tree selected, I'm in object mode. What I need to do is go to weight paint, our weight paint mode here. Okay, now think back. I talked about a lot of times in Blender, there is, you use decimals or percentages as a value between 0 and 1. So in weight paint, you can paint values between 0 and 1, and it assigns those values to the vertices that are painted underneath. And it sounds complicated, but just follow along. Hopefully it'll make sense in a moment. So right now, I'm in weight paint mode. I clicked this drop down and actually went to weight paint. I'm on the tree. I have the tree selected. Blue, if you're in weight paint and you see the color blue, this is a value of 0. And you can see like I have the option to change the weight here. So right now, my weight paint, I'm going to draw a weight of 1 on here. So if I click and hold, why is my radius so low? So I turned my radius up a little bit. So if I click and hold and paint on here with weight of 1, it turns red. So it's kind of like a rainbow. So I'm painting a value of 1 onto the surface here. So red is a value of 1, the weight is 1, or 100%. And blue is a value of 0, or 0%. So you can see there's a little gradient. So like green means about 50% strength. Teal is, like 25. Yellow is like 75%. Okay. So what I can do, let me go back to object mode. And so, what it does, it creates not texture paint, weight paint. It creates a group of vertexes. The vertex is on my tree here, and it assigns this value, a value of 1 to these ones. It assigns a value of like 0.5 to these vertexes, and it assigns a value of 0 to all the other blue ones. It's created a vertex group. Okay, and so what we can do, let's go back to object mode. In our particle system here, our particle properties, we can go to field weights, right? I believe, oh no, vertex groups. Vertex groups. So we created a vertex group. And actually, and you can even see, if I go to object data properties, you can see that there's this vertex group here, this new one. It's called group. I should rename this. We could name it like leaf density. Because what we're doing is we're painting on the areas that we want the particles to be most dense. Okay, then I can go back to my particle properties here, all the way down to vertex group. So we created that vertex group called leaf density. This is what it looked like. This is what the vertex group looks like. Weight paint looks like this. I'm gonna go back to object mode. And in the density here, so you can see there's actually a lot of different properties you can manipulate with the vertex group, but let's click on the density and select that vertex group that I made called leaf density. Aha! And now I have just leaves where I painted with the weight paint. So here, this is where it was red, where it says value of 1 or 100%. I want 100% density here. It kind of trails off a little bit, and then where it was blue, it's 0 dense. So there are no leaves down here. Aha, okay, cool. Hopefully this is making sense. And you can still like change all these properties. So you can say like, oh yeah, I want more leaves, or I want less leaves. So yeah, and you can see that it kind of trails off where it's less dense over here. So you can go back and continue to you can go back to weight paint, and you can continue to edit this. So maybe you want to paint a little bit more here. Maybe F, I should turn my brush down. Cool. And yeah, on this branch here. And so you can paint different values too. So if it's like, oh, you know, like that's too much, I want to like lower the weight that I'm painting, and so like a value of 0.4 is like kind of teal like this. So you can paint over, and it kind of removes some of the denseness of it. So like the density is a lot lower on this branch here. So if I go back to object mode, you can see that the density is like marginally lower. So this, you know, the more vertexes you have underneath, the more kind of detailed your weight paint is going to be. Because, you know, it's creating a group of vertexes, and if there's not a lot of vertexes, then there's not going to be a lot of difference in the weight. And I'll show you an example of that. So let's say I'm pleased with my very silly tree here like this. I'm going to add, let's do like grass. So the other thing too is like you can turn off this first leaf from the render by disabling, didn't mean to do that. Why did I right-clicked and then something happened? Delete keyframe. Oh, I keyframed it. You can hit the little camera here and it won't appear in your render, which is probably a good idea. Okay, next example. Let's say we wanted grass. So if I go Shift A, plane, and I just scale this way up, and we want to have just sort of like a little grassy area here. Let's make a blade of grass that we want to be our particle. So I'm going to Shift A, add another plane, and I'm going to RX 90 like this. And I'm just going to make it super duper simple. So I'm going to go tab edit mode. Let me do my front view like this. And I'm just going to like, one for vertex select, I'm going to G, oh gosh, I have proportional editing on. Oh, never forget to turn off proportional editing. The other thing too is I want to make sure that my origin point still remains in the center of it, because that's where it places the particle at the origin point. So like if I move this up here and the origin point is below it, all of my blades of grass are going to be floating. So that's just another thing to make sure. Like make sure your origin point is still like connected to your thing. So I'm gonna like G move this down here, and G move this here, and G move this here. And I'm going to select this edge and right click and subdivide that. Actually, maybe I'll just do a Control R loop cut like this. Just so I'm being good. I'm being a good polygon maker here. And so I'm just trying to make like a really skinny blade of grass like this. I don't know. Something like this. Maybe I'll even dissolve this edge here. So I'm going to select that. And delete key and dissolve vertice. But I didn't want, I didn't do dissolve, I did delete. Dissolve vertice, okay. I'm going to A, and again, I'm going to make sure that I'm over that origin point. So there's my blade of grass. Okay, here we go. Tab to get back into object mode. So I want to weight paint my plane here because I want to have kind of grass sort of clumped and strewn randomly around. But if I go to weight paint right now on this on my plane, if I try to paint on here, you can see I'm hopefully, or maybe here I'm clicking, nothing's happening. It's because this plane only has 4 vertices and they're in the corners. So you'd have to paint on the corner like this. You know? And that's not what we want. So what you need to do, I'm going to undo those. Weight paint and go back to, I'm going to go edit mode like this, and we just need to subdivide this a bunch of times so that there's actually vertexes to paint that weight onto. So I'm in edit mode. I'm just going to right click subdivide, right click subdivide, right click subdivide. Do it a bunch. Do it as many as you need. Like maybe one more. So I've done it a few times, but now you can have a much more detailed weight paint. So now I can go weight paint like this, and I can say, yes, like I can really control where I want my grass to be. So I can go weight 1, strength at 0.39, so it'll kind of, it's sort of doing what I want it to. So I want it like a little more clumped up over here, but I'm just going to do some random things fall off. Yeah, I don't know. Listen to your heart a little bit. Maybe there's, maybe there's like a little extra clump here. I don't know. And so now with this weight paint, and I have to set up my particle system. Anyway, okay, so new particle. Oops, click in the wrong window. New particle system. This is going to be, whoops, gosh, you guys, I keep right clicking. What's up with my hand today? I can say hair, and I can say I don't want render as path, render as object, and I want my object to be plane 001, right? So we'll call this grass, like that. Instance object is going to be grass. Yep, okay, so there it is. There's the blades of grass. Go down to vertex groups, and I want density to be, it named it group, but again, so if I go back to object data properties here, this green one, it created this vertex group. I can double click here, and this we'll call this grass density. Density. Okay, back to my particle properties tab here. Down to my vertex groups, I want the density to be grass density. Great. So now you can see that the grass is clumped up where we had the weight paint. Let's go back up here. But we can even up the number. Let's change the scale of it. I want it to be a little taller. Let's maybe make this like 5,000. And scale randomness, definitely scale randomness. And we also want advanced properties, and we want to change the rotation of it so that the random phase. Global Z? Yeah, like this, okay. Randomize the global, not the global Z. Randomize the phase like this. So we've got, we go back to object mode. So here, actually looks okay, I think. Maybe you up the seed some more, 8,000, 10,000. There, so it's like, you know, it's done some nice like kind of random grass for you. But again, just be careful because, you know, I multiplied this 10,000 times. So there's 10,000 blades of grass in here. And so if I look at my statistics here, you know, I've got 40,000 polygons in here, which is a lot. So just like be careful. If you're getting much more than that in your scene, it can really kind of slow things down. But again, it can have a nice effect. And, you know, like maybe it still does look a little bit too uniform. Maybe you want to totally change the randomize like that. Play with some of these other things. Velocity won't have that much of an effect because we're not rendering, but like you can scale the randomness some more. Or maybe what you do is you have a couple of different particles. So like it's maybe really apparent that this grass, it's the same blade of grass. So we call this like grass 1. And maybe you make another one. So maybe you Shift D, duplicate this, and you change it a little bit. So maybe this one is like a little wider, or just like shaped a little bit differently, or I don't know. Maybe it's just like a little fatter like that. And then maybe you have another particle system. So what you could do is, on the plane, we'll call this ground plane, just making sure I'm labeling things. You can add another particle system. So this will be like, you could call this like grass, like thick grass. It helps, it really, once you start adding multiple things, it's really helpful if you're labeling stuff. And it can be hair, change the path to an object, and maybe you make the object grass 1, the other grass. Or actually, I should call this grass 2, grass 2. And you know, you can use the same density if you want, or maybe you have another density. So maybe grass 2, you can go back to your object data properties here and add a new vertex group. We can call this grass 2 density. Go to your weight paint and paint a new thing here for grass 2. This is the grass 2 density if you've got it. You can go back to your particle properties, set the density to grass 2 density. And so now it's, whoops, if I go back to object mode, now it's just clumped here. So anyway, you can stack things up and add some randomness if you want. But that's particles. So feel free to like do grass, or if you want, add leaves, just like a couple leaves if you want to your tree. Maybe your leaf is like looks a little nicer than mine. But you can paint, do a weight paint just on the edge of your branches that you want leaves on or something like that. So again, it's totally bonus stuff here. But it's, you know, it's kind of cool. This, like, you can have some like natural randomness as part of part of your scene that I think can add quite a bit of effect. Okay, thanks for watching the bonus one. Good luck. Make sure you finish up your assignment 3 before we Zoom next week. That's all. So long. Bye.